My name is Dr. Sarah Collins, though my family has never known me by that title. To them, I'm just Sarah, the single sister who works somewhere in healthcare and keeps her personal life mysteriously private. I'm a pediatric neurologist at Children's Hospital, one of only 3 specialists in the state qualified to treat rare childhood brain disorders. I've spent 12 years building my reputation, publishing research and saving children's lives. But to my family, I'm just the odd one out who never married or had kids. My brother Michael married Victoria 5 years ago, and she made it clear from day one that she didn't approve of me. Victoria came from a traditional family where women were expected to marry young and start families immediately. At 34, my single status was apparently a personal affront to her worldview. "Don't you think it's time you settled down?" Victoria would ask at every family gathering, her voice dripping with false concern. "You're not getting any younger." I'd smile politely and change the subject. What Victoria didn't know was that I'd chosen my career over marriage, dedicating my life to helping children when others had given up hope. I worked 60-hour weeks, took calls at all hours, and found fulfillment in medicine that I'd never found in relationships. Michael knew I was a doctor but not the extent of my success. He thought I was just a hospital employee, maybe a nurse or technician. I preferred it that way. My achievements spoke for themselves in my professional life, and I didn't need family validation. The Christmas incident happened last December. I'd been looking forward to the holiday gathering, having just completed a successful surgery on a 7-year-old with a rare brain tumor. I was exhausted but happy, ready to relax with family. Victoria called me 3 days before Christmas Eve. "Sarah, we need to talk about Christmas dinner." "What about it?" "Well, we've been thinking about the guest list and we want to keep it to immediate family only this year." I frowned. "I am immediate family. I'm Michael's sister." "Yes, but you're not really established. You don't have a husband or children. It's going to be couples with their kids, and we don't want you to feel uncomfortable being the only single person there." The audacity of her statement left me speechless for a moment. "Victoria, I've been attending family Christmas for 34 years. I know, but things are different now. We want to focus on real families, people who understand what Christmas is about, spouses and children together. So because I'm single, I'm not real family? Don't be dramatic. You just don't fit the dynamic we're trying to create." I could hear Michael in the background asking who was on the phone. Victoria covered the receiver, but I caught fragments of their conversation. "Told her about Christmas. She's upset, but better this way." When she came back on the line, her voice was firmer. "Look, Sarah, this is what's best for everyone. Maybe you can visit next week instead. Let me talk to Michael. He agrees with me. We both think you'd be more comfortable celebrating elsewhere." I hung up without saying goodbye. 20 minutes later, Michael texted, "Sorry sis, Victoria thinks it's better this way. You understand, right?" I didn't respond. For the first time in my adult life, I spent Christmas alone. While Victoria hosted her real family's celebration, I worked a hospital shift, caring for children whose parents would give anything to have them healthy for the holidays. The irony wasn't lost on me. Victoria excluded me for not having children, while I spent my career saving other people's children. Over the next few months, I distanced myself from family gatherings. When Michael called to invite me to his son Tommy's birthday party, I politely declined. Victoria had made her position clear. I wasn't family unless I fit her traditional mold. Michael and Victoria's marriage seemed perfect from the outside. They had a beautiful house in the suburbs, 2 cars and 6-year-old Tommy who was the center of their world. Victoria had quit her marketing job to be a full-time mother, while Michael worked in sales to support their lifestyle. What they didn't know was that my lifestyle was quite different from what they imagined. I lived in a modest apartment by choice, preferring to spend my considerable salary on medical research and charitable causes. I owned a luxury car but drove an old Honda to family events to avoid questions about my finances. In March, everything changed. I was in my office reviewing patient files when my phone rang. Michael's number. "Sarah." His voice was shaky, panicked. "I need your help." "What's wrong?" "It's Tommy. He's been having these episodes, seizures maybe? The doctors here don't know what's wrong. They want to transfer him to Children's Hospital." My blood ran cold. "What kind of episodes?" "He'll be playing normally, then suddenly he'll stop responding. His eyes roll back and he makes these strange movements. It lasts maybe 30 seconds, then he's confused and tired. I was already pulling up my schedule, canceling appointments. Michael, where are you? St. Mary's Emergency. They're talking about transferring him tonight. I'll meet you at Children's Hospital. What room? How do you know they'll have a room ready? I paused, realizing I'd revealed too much. I have connections there. Just tell me when you're leaving. 2 hours later, I watched the ambulance pull up to Children's Hospital. I'd already reviewed Tommy's medical records, consulted with the emergency team, and prepared for every possible scenario. From the medical records and Michael's description, Tommy likely had a rare form of childhood epilepsy, possibly Landau-Kleffner syndrome or a related disorder. These conditions required immediate intervention and ongoing specialized care. I stood in the hallway as they wheeled Tommy into the pediatric ICU. Michael and Victoria followed, both looking terrified and exhausted. Victoria was crying, clutching Michael's arm. What if they can't help him? What if no one knows what's wrong? The neurologist here is supposed to be one of the best, Michael said, trying to sound confident. Dr. Collins. The nurse said she specializes in exactly this kind of thing. I stepped back into the shadows as they passed, my heart breaking for their fear while knowing I could help their son. The attending physician, Dr. Martinez, approached them in the waiting room. I watched from a distance as he explained the situation. We need Dr. Collins to examine Tommy, he said. She's our top pediatric neurologist, and based on the symptoms, this is exactly her area of expertise. When can we meet her? Victoria asked desperately. She's reviewing his case now. She'll be in shortly. That's when I made my decision. I couldn't let Tommy suffer because of Victoria's prejudice against me. I couldn't let my nephew go without the best possible care because his mother had excluded me from Christmas dinner. I went to the physician's lounge and changed into my white coat, the one with Dr. Sarah Collins, Pediatric Neurology, embroidered on the pocket. For the first time in months, I was about to show my family who I really was. I walked down the hallway toward Tommy's room, my heart pounding. Through the window, I could see Michael and Victoria sitting beside their son's bed, holding his small hands and whispering encouragement. They had no idea that the sister Victoria had dismissed as not real family was about to become the most important person in their lives. I knocked on the door and stepped inside. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson? I'm Dr. Collins. Victoria looked up, her tear-stained face showing confusion, then recognition, then complete shock. Sarah, she whispered. Hello, Victoria. I'm here to help Tommy. The silence in the room was deafening. Victoria stared at me in my white coat, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Michael looked between us, clearly confused by the tension. Sarah. Michael stood up slowly. You're Dr. Collins? You're the neurologist. I am. I moved to Tommy's bedside, checking his monitors while maintaining my professional composure. I've reviewed his case. We need to run some additional tests. Victoria found her voice. This is impossible. You work in healthcare, but you're not a doctor. You can't be a doctor. I pulled out my credentials and handed them to Michael. Board certified in pediatric neurology. 12 years of practice. I specialize in rare childhood seizure disorders. Michael read the credentials twice, his face showing dawning realization. Sarah, why didn't you tell us? Because it wasn't relevant to family gatherings. Victoria stood up abruptly. I want a different doctor. Someone else needs to treat Tommy. Victoria. Michael looked shocked. She's the best neurologist in the state. The other doctors said so. I don't care. She's not touching my son. I kept my voice calm and professional. Mrs. Thompson, Tommy has symptoms consistent with Landau-Kleffner syndrome or a related disorder. Without proper treatment, he could develop permanent cognitive impairment or lose his ability to speak. You're lying to scare us. I'm explaining the medical reality. I pulled up Tommy's brain scans on the monitor. These abnormal electrical patterns need immediate intervention. Michael stepped closer to the screen. What does that mean? It means Tommy's brain is having seizures that are affecting his language centers. Each episode damages his ability to process and produce speech. Victoria looked at her son, then back at me. And you can fix this? I can treat it. The sooner we start, the better his chances of full recovery. How long have you been a doctor? Michael asked quietly. 12 years. I completed my residency at Johns Hopkins, fellowship at Boston Children's Hospital. I've published research on this exact condition. Victoria sank back into her chair. All this time you've been saving children's lives while you decided I wasn't family enough for Christmas dinner. The words hung in the air between us. Michael looked confused, but Victoria's face crumpled. Sarah, I didn't know. You didn't want to know. You assumed because I was single that I was somehow less than. Tommy stirred on the bed, making a small sound. I immediately checked his vitals, adjusting his medication dosage. What's happening? Victoria jumped up. He's stabilizing. But we need to start treatment immediately. I turned to face them both. I need your consent to begin the medication protocol. Victoria looked at Michael, then at me. What does the treatment involve? High-dose steroids to reduce brain inflammation, followed by specialized anti-seizure medications. He'll need to stay here for at least a week while we monitor his response. And if we don't treat him, the seizures will continue damaging his brain. He could lose his ability to speak permanently, develop learning disabilities, or worse. Michael signed the consent forms without hesitation. Do whatever you need to do. Over the next week, I practically lived at the hospital monitoring Tommy's progress. The steroid treatment was working, his seizures decreased significantly, and his brain scans showed improvement. Victoria and Michael took turns staying with Tommy, but I noticed Victoria watching me during my rounds. On the fourth day, she followed me out of the room. Sarah, can we talk? I stopped at the nurse's station. About Tommy's treatment? About Christmas? About everything. I continued reviewing charts. I'm focused on my patient right now. Your patient is my son. Your nephew. I looked up at her. Is he family now? Because 3 months ago you made it clear I wasn't. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I was wrong. I was completely, horribly wrong. Yes, you were. I judged you for being single, for not having children. I didn't know you were spending your life saving other people's children. Would it have mattered if you had known? She was quiet for a moment. I want to say yes, but honestly, I don't know. I was so caught up in my own narrow view of what family should look like. And now I see that you've been more family to Tommy in 4 days than I understood in 6 years. I set down the chart. Victoria, I didn't become a doctor to prove anything to you. I became a doctor because I wanted to help kids like Tommy. I know. And I'm grateful. More grateful than I can express. Don't be grateful yet. Tommy still has a long recovery ahead. But he will recover? I nodded. His response to treatment is excellent. With continued medication and therapy, he should make a full recovery. Victoria broke down crying in the hallway. I almost lost him. And I almost lost you. You didn't lose me. I was never yours to lose. I want to make this right, Sarah. I want us to be family again. I studied her face, seeing genuine remorse mixed with fear. Victoria, I don't need your validation to be family. I'm Michael's sister. I'm Tommy's aunt. That's not something you can take away. But I tried to. Yes, you did. And now you know better. Over the next few days, Victoria's entire attitude changed. She asked questions about my work, listened to my explanations about Tommy's condition, and even thanked the nurses for their care. On Tommy's last day in the hospital, she brought me coffee during my morning rounds. Sarah, I have a question. What is it? Next Christmas, will you come to dinner? Please. I smiled for the first time since the whole ordeal began. Are you sure I'm real family now? You've always been real family. I was just too stupid to see it. Then yes, I'll come to Christmas dinner. Michael joined us as I was discharging Tommy. Sarah, I owe you an apology too. I should have stood up for you. You were trying to keep peace in your marriage. I was being a coward. You're my sister and I let Victoria exclude you. It's okay, Michael. Sometimes we need to see clearly before we can act clearly. Tommy was fully recovered within 6 months. His speech returned completely and his brain scans showed no lasting damage. He's now a happy, healthy 7-year-old who calls me Aunt Dr. Sarah. Victoria and I will never be best friends, but we've found mutual respect. She learned that family comes in many forms and I learned that forgiveness sometimes takes time. Last Christmas, I sat at their dinner table wearing the watch Tommy had given me, engraved with "World's Best Aunt." Thank you, Victoria said quietly as we cleaned up after dinner. For what? For saving my son. For forgiving me. For being family even when I didn't deserve it. That's what family does, Victoria. We show up when it matters most. She nodded, finally understanding what I'd known all along, that love and commitment make a family, not traditional structures or social expectations. And sometimes the person you exclude from your Christmas dinner turns out to be the one who saves your child's life. The invitation arrived on elegant cardstock, hand-delivered to my office at the hospital. Dr. Sarah Collins cordially invited to Tommy's 8th birthday celebration theme, superheroes and real heroes. I smiled, remembering last year's birthday party, the one I'd politely declined because Victoria had made it clear I wasn't welcome. This year felt different. Saturday afternoon, I arrived at Michael and Victoria's house carrying a special gift, a child-sized doctor's coat with Dr. Tommy embroidered on the pocket. Tommy had been fascinated by medicine since his hospital stay, asking endless questions about how his brain worked and why some kids got sick. Aunt Dr. Sarah. Tommy ran up to me wearing a Superman cape. Mom said you have a surprise for me. I do indeed. I handed him the wrapped package. His eyes lit up when he saw the white coat. Can I be a doctor like you? If you study hard and help people, you can be anything you want. Victoria approached, looking genuinely happy to see me. Over the past year, our relationship had transformed completely. She'd started volunteering at the children's hospital, reading to young patients during their treatments. Sarah, thank you for coming. And thank you for inspiring Tommy. He tells everyone he wants to be a pediatric neurologist. He's got time to decide. But he certainly has the curiosity for it. The party was filled with families from Tommy's school and the neighborhood. Several parents approached me throughout the afternoon, thanking me for saving their children or asking for medical advice. I realized Victoria had been talking about my work, proud rather than dismissive. During cake time, Tommy stood up with his slice and tapped his plastic fork against his juice cup. I want to make a speech, he announced in his clear, perfect voice, the voice we almost lost to his condition. Go ahead, buddy, Michael encouraged. Last year I got really sick and had to go to the hospital. I was scared, but then Aunt Dr. Sarah took care of me. She made my brain better so I could talk and think right. He looked directly at me. Mommy told me she was mean to you before I got sick. She said she didn't invite you to Christmas because she didn't understand that you save kids like me every day. Victoria's face flushed, but she didn't interrupt.